All right. Do we have Dom on? Dom Theodore. He is the program director of this program. He's actually the guy who saved my career about 20 years ago and told me, what are you doing listening to everybody else? Your show sucks when you listen to everybody else. Why don't you do what you want to do? And I said, I'm going to try that because they're going to fire me anyway. And now here we are all these many years later. Dom, how are you, sir?
I'd say it all worked out for you pretty well.
Yeah, it did. So, Dom, let's talk about what happened in Michigan last night. Something miraculous happened in your township.
Yeah, it's really one township over from where I live. There's been, I think this audience is very familiar with the CCP-run Goshen battery factory that the state of Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer, tried to shove down our throat here locally, and continues to, by the way. But what happened was there were a number of local officials that early on kind of signed on to that project in a shroud of secrecy. They used secret code names for it, like Project Elephant, and they kept the community in the dark. Well, the community eventually found out about it. But of course, it was by that point after the board had committed resources and taken votes and, supported Goshen. And it was really too late for the public to respond. And so the public went into action and signed recall petitions for all the board members for Green Charter Township. Eventually, a couple of them had resigned, so there were only 5 left that didn't resign. And last night, every single one of them was replaced in the recall election. We clean swept all 5 of those seats. In addition, there was another seat for the township supervisor in Big Rapids Township. Unlike the Green Charter Township Board, the Big Rapids Township listened to the public, and everyone except their supervisor, Bill Stanek, had decided to go with what the public had wanted, which was not supporting Goshen. The only one that wouldn't change his mind was Bill Stanek. He also was recalled last night and replaced.
So what does this mean? Because you have a Chinese communist company coming in here to build batteries. It has in its charter that it has to have a young communist club and all kinds of crazy stuff. But Whitmer brought all of this stuff in, jammed it through. The town councils, they all said, okay. So is this going to stop it or what is this?
Here's the worst part is they did all this with our tax dollars. I mean, that's the thing. The money that lured them here and is paying for most of this is Michigan tax dollars.
Unbelievable.
So that's the worst part. There's a development agreement in place that the previous board left over. And, obviously the new board is going to look at that with an attorney and see what the options are as far as getting out of it. There's a number of things that, Goshen in the past has basically been able to come in and steamroll over the community and against the public's wishes. It's interesting. The former township supervisor, Jim Chapman, completely refused to take a public survey at any point because he knew that this was going to be the result. And by the way, Glenn, the margins weren't even close. We won by like 70% in most cases.
Jeez.
So it was clear that the community didn't want this project, never wanted this project. And, now we have a new board with fresh eyes, as you said, that will look at every option that's on the table and see, how they can get out of the development agreement and possibly, some other remedies as well. So, but what they're going to find now is that the township boards are not going to roll over like they have been.
Good. Well, congratulations, Dom. I know you guys have worked really hard on this. And, standing up to not only Whitmer and all of the state's machinery, but also the machinery of the CCP is not easy. And here's good guys winning. So keep it up.
Believe me, it wasn't me. There were so many people involved. The community all came together and we can use everyone's help at protectmacosta.org, because there's still obviously there's actually a lawsuit as well to try to stop them. So there's a C3 nonprofit set up to help tax deductible donations at Protect Macosta, as in Macosta County, MECOSTA.org.
Thank you very much, Dom.
People would like to donate.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
God bless. So
You
that's some good news. Some good news. Taxpayers went and said no to higher taxes all over the country. If I were not the guy that I am, and hadn't done my homework, wasn't paying attention in Ohio, I would have voted against or for the abortion proposition, because to me the way it was worded is so misleading. It was, the state's going to be able to have, it'll be in the Constitution. Somebody can get in the way of your wife's miscarriage, and have to manage that for her. What are you talking about? It was horrible the way it was worded, and I think there were a lot of people that fell for it, quite honestly. It wasn't honest. However, it could be that people just are cool with abortion. I don't know. I don't know.
And if that's the case, then we are going to deserve everything our country gets.
Yes.
That is where this is going to end, sadly. But you're right. The wording was completely ridiculous, bringing up things like birth control, which no one was fighting against, fertility treatments, which no one was fighting against, miscarriage care, which no one was fighting against. I mean, there was one really interesting, I can't remember the exact wording of it, but it was something like the right to be able to keep your own pregnancy, which, is there a movement of people just walking down the street pointing at pregnant bellies and saying, "End that one"? I don't know. Maybe there is.
I've never seen it.
I've never heard it.
So now in the Constitution is the right to abortion. And another measure that they voted for to legalize marijuana. Margins on both ballot measures, not even close. Abortion and marijuana both won by double digits. Congratulations.
Yeah, totally. By the way, totally expected. I mean, this was not a surprise at all. It was something we talked about yesterday that was going to happen. It's unfortunate. And now Ohio basically is California, on abortion. And I know, look, while some people are
That's
certainly...
why we were not for the constitutional vote over the summer.
That was the vote that mattered.
Yeah.
This one, we knew this was going to happen once the first one happened.
Yeah.
But, look, there are people that are certainly to the left of us when it comes to the life issue, and maybe the people of Ohio are in that category, but they're not as far left as California and New York and Illinois, and now they've got the same laws. So, and it's constitutionally enshrined. So it's going to be hard to remove, but that is what this is all about. And the point is changing people's minds over a long period of time. It's not always going to be done with the law. You can't just depend on votes. You have to be able to convince people over a very long period, and it's important because what we're talking about here are children living. And I know that's a quaint little idea that we're not allowed to talk about anymore, but we kind of think that children should be alive.
Looks like the Democratic Party held on to the governor's mansion in Kentucky, the Senate in Virginia. They managed to flip the Virginia House. The biggest win came in two ballot measures in Ohio that we just told you about. One race in the Virginia House was really close, and I don't have, can you see if they've called this race yet? Susanna Gibson. Did it go to Susanna Gibson or did it go to David Owens? It was too close to call in the middle of the night. But Susanna Gibson, if you remember, is the nurse practitioner who, people talked about because she made videos of her performing all kinds of things by request for payment in her bedroom.
It appears that Owen did win that race.
Owen did win it.
Yes. So not
her.
And probably the important issue probably is the difference here. It was only about a 3% race, about 900 votes, give or take. It was the difference in this race. So probably, maybe who knows? Maybe she was going to lose by 20 points, and the porn thing got her close. I don't know, but my guess is the difference here was this scandal that came out.
You have the Mississippi governor, Tate Reeves, a second turn for him. The Democrat conceded last night. The assembly in New Jersey remains solidly blue. It was a Democrat clean sweep. Long Island goes Republican. So we got Long Island. Colorado voters rejected property tax measures backed by the Democrats. In Maine, they voted against a new state utility, and they said they wanted to change their constitution and put it. It remains in the Constitution, but for some unknown reason, at least to me, they took it out of the printed Constitution, and it's all of the tribal obligations that Maine has that, 200 years ago, they made to the Native Americans and the people there. But it's full of white people, so you would expect this. They said, hey, we should put that back in our Constitution so we all remember what where we came from and, our obligations. So those racists up in Maine, they voted to restore that.
White people are the worst. Am I right?
No. Whitmer and Jackson Lee. Okay, so here's it's Whitmire, actually. It's Senator John Whitmire running for the mayor's role in Houston, running against Sheila Jackson Lee.
Exciting race. They're going to go to runoff there.
So you're going to have one of the two.
Whitmire would probably be the better one, right? More
over Sheila Jackson Lee.
Yes,
just for comedic purposes.
That's true. For our purposes, we don't live in Houston.
Yes.
So for our purposes, Sheila Jackson Lee would be a better mayor because we would get constant.
I cannot believe that Sheila Jackson Lee is actually being considered by a good number of people in Houston. That's insanity.
It really is incredible.
I mean, all of this just goes to show you that we are not a nation. It is not an open and shut case. Everybody knows it's going to be close, but I don't think that it is actually running in our favor when it comes to, the poll numbers. I don't think this is an open and shut case by any stretch of the imagination for any of these presidential candidates.
Oh, no. I mean, I think that's definitely true. I mean, it's not easy to win presidential elections. Now, you do have a very, very weak candidate running for re-election, at least currently, in Joe Biden, which makes it possible, but it's not obvious by any means. I was looking at the Texas results, and they voted on, what was it? We voted here in Texas, 14 different propositions. Only one did they reject. They said yes to all 14 of them except one. And that one was raising the mandatory retirement age for state judges. So the state constitution would be amended to increase the mandatory retirement age for Texas judges to 79 from 75. So the one thing they rejected out of all of these, and it's like creating funds for water and creating funds for internet and all these other things, the only thing Texas voters rejected was like, no more old people. Please, no more old people.